So beginning from today, political parties as well as politicians and their supporters can officially go about town now canvassing for votes for their presidential candidates. And that's because the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has lifted the ban on political campaigns for next year's polls. With another political transition in the offing, INEC has also issued a stern warning to politicians and political parties to play by the rules. The Commission warns that a political message or slogan mustn't be tainted with abusive language, directly or indirectly likely to injure religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. Now, the electoral body also says that abusive, intemperate, slanderous, or base language or innuendos designed or likely to provoke violent reactions or emotions mustn't be employed or used in political campaigns. And we have joining us now via Zoom the National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC, Festus Okoye. It's good to have you join us again on TVC Breakfast. Welcome.
Good morning.
So we were speaking earlier amongst ourselves here in the studio that, this start of presidential campaigns 150 days before the presidential election is one of the innovations of the new Electoral Act. Tell us about the intentions of INEC with this innovation. Of course, later on, governorship campaigns and other campaigns will kick off. But, what is INEC hoping to achieve?
Well, it is important for political parties to have sufficient time to go around the country and espouse their ideological framework and also their ideologies to the Nigerian public and also members of their various political parties. It's also very important for political parties to have sufficient time to get the members of the public understand their logo and other paraphernalia relating to the political party, so that on election day, when people go to vote, they are going to vote from a point of view of knowledge, they are going to vote rationally, and they will be in a position to identify the logo of their political parties on the ballot, to prevent a situation where the Independent National Electoral Commission will keep on recording spoiled ballots and ballots that are not properly placed and ballots that are not properly identified. That is one. Secondly, it is also very important for political parties and their candidates to have sufficient time to go around the country and then know the challenges and problems of this country, so that when they get into power, they will be in a position to carry out programs that are impactful and also carry out programs and policies that address the problems and challenges of the Nigerian people. And so I think that giving them sufficient time to move around, to expound on their principles, expound on their ideologies, and also tell the Nigerian people what they intend to do in governance is very, very important. And I think that the political parties can no longer complain of now having sufficient time to move around the country, to meet the people, meet their supporters, and also sell their programs and policies to the Nigerian people.
A laudable one there by the body, I must say. But then again, there are concerns with regards to monitoring, the measures put in place to address any breach of the laws, especially on social media. What can you talk to us on that?
Well, the major responsibility for conducting political rallies and campaigns resides with the various political parties. The law and our regulations, insist that before any political party can conduct rallies or processions or campaigns, that particular political party, if it intends to conduct a campaign or rally in a local government, must give our electoral officer in the local government a 10-day notice of his intention to do so. And they must also provide the venue where the rally will take place or where the procession will take place, and also the time when these things will take place. If a political party intends to do that in a state, it must notify the resident electoral commissioner for that particular state of what he intends to do. And then we have monitoring mechanisms We have a Department of Election and Party Monitoring that monitors political campaigns and political rallies. As you know, the Independent National Electoral Commission has offices in the 704 local government areas of Nigeria and also in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And so we are going to monitor political rallies, we are going to monitor political campaigns to make sure that they abide by the provisions of the Constitution, they abide by the provisions of the Electoral Act, and also our regulations and guidelines relating to political campaigns and political rallies. And so we are going to monitor all this.
Right, but I think it's also crucial to stress the arena of social media, because that doesn't appear to be factored in the act as, you know, fine as it has been, or it looks, and it has also been largely lauded by many stakeholders as being a game changer. But even before the kickoff of presidential campaigns, we've seen how the social media has been bustling and stoking concerns about, okay, so who is going to rein in while there's attention on traditional media to do the needful, but who is going to rein in on excesses that we will see online? Or we could see
online? The social media is an arena that largely is ungoverned at present. And yes, it's true that we've experienced issues of misinformation and disinformation on social media. But you know, the Independent National Electoral Commission is very careful in order not to muzzle forces of expression and views being expressed by people. It is expected that people are going to comport themselves in a manner that does not endanger the existence of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and also in a manner that does not endanger national security. Yes, it is true that the Constitution guarantees freedom of expression, and the Commission will not go out of its way to go and muzzle freedom of expression. But there are laws and there are also mechanisms of checking what happens in the social media. The fact that you are on social media does not prevent you from abiding by the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And also it does not mean that if you engage in defamation, if you engage in libel on social media, that you cannot be proceeded against. But I think that political parties, their candidates, aspirants, and members of the public should exercise greater restraint in terms of the way they use the social media in order not to create challenges for the Commission and create challenges for the security agencies and also create challenges for the people of this country. But the issue of the social media and some of the things that goes on in the social media is a source for concern because we have experienced cases of misinformation and disinformation that go to the root of the electoral process and have the capacity and potential to misinform people relating to the intentions of the Independent National Electoral Commission and the other processes and procedures of the Commission.
Now, the focus of the Commission this time around has been on political parties, you know, avoiding hate speech as much as possible. Could you throw more light on that as to why the body is looking at that aspect this time around?
Well, you know, we expect political parties, their candidates, and their supporters to abide the provisions of the law. The law is very, very clear. Section 92 of the Electoral Act makes it clear that no political party shall be, that political campaigns and political slogans shall not be tainted with abusive language, directly or indirectly, likely to injure religious, ethnic, sectional, and other feelings. It also makes it clear that abusive, intemperate, and slanderous or base language or insinuations or even innuendos likely to provoke violent reaction or emotions shall not be employed or used in political rallies and political campaigns. And so that is the provisions of the law, and that is the intendments of Section 92 of the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act is also very clear on where you can do your political campaigns and your political rallies. And it has made it clear that places designated for religious worship and police stations and public offices shall not be used for political campaigns and political rallies or to even espouse the ideologies and programs of a political party. These are provisions of the law, and we also expect political parties to abide by these provisions. It is also very, very important for political parties not to use force or to use coercion in their political rallies. In other words, they are not permitted to employ the services of armed security guards or even other security guards that have the capacity to employ violence in doing things. These are the provisions of the law, and we expect every registered political party that is engaged in campaigns and that is engaged in rallies to abide by the law, because the law is meant for all of us, and we must abide by the rule of law and due process in carrying out whatever programs we are carrying out.
So these infractions have been stipulated in the amended Electoral Act, and of course it will be left to the courts to determine the extent or how far it wants to go in imposing the stipulated fines or the and other punitive measures. But what will be the yardstick of INEC proving these infractions? Would it be the ordinary man's test? Or I don't know if you get my drive, but how do you want to go? Because the onus will be on your agency to prove that these infractions are really wrong, so to speak. So how far would you go in proving these infractions before the court if we get to that point?
Well, you know that the Independent National Electoral Commission does not have its own police force. The task of election security resides with the Nigerian police force and the other security agencies. They are the ones that have the capacity to make arrests. They are the ones that have capacity to investigate. Then the moment a prima facie case is made out, then we will be in a position to prosecute. If the Independent National Electoral Commission also makes out a prima facie case, we can also go to court on that basis. But ultimately, it is the responsibility of courts to make a determination of whether a prima facie case has been established and whether a case has been made out. And if a case has been made out, the court of law has the capacity to impose the penalties that are stipulated in section 92, subsection 7 of the electoral, subsection 7 and 8 of the Electoral Act. And so it is the responsibility of courts to make a determination whether an infraction has occurred and whether the necessary punishment and penalties should be imposed.
All right, let's quickly put you on hold. We'll need to go on a commercial break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation with you. Just stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we're speaking with the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC, Festus Okoye, who was talking to us about some of the do's and don'ts with regards to the campaigns. And before we went on the break, Mr. Okoye, you were talking to us about how far the Commission is going to go with regards to proving the infractions with regards to the law. Now, and that leads me to the next question I want to ask, the level of collaboration with agencies like the police, for instance, because he said INEC does not have its own police and cannot make arrests, but we have agencies who can do or go as far as ensuring that these persons who carry out any infraction are arrested, so to speak. And would like to know the level of collaboration with other agencies with regards to this.
The Commission collaborates and partners with the security agencies involved in election security. We have what we call the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, both at the national level and at the state level. At the national level, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, chairs the Interagency Consultative Committee, and the National Security Advisor is the co-chair. And in that particular committee, the Inspector General of Police is there, the Director General of the DSS is there, the Chairman of the EFCC is there, the Chairman of ICPC is there, and almost all the other security agencies, even including the National Orientation Agency and also the other agencies. And so we collaborate and we hold quarterly consultative meetings in relation to election security and in relation to what should be done and what should not be done. During the Ekiti and Osun governorship elections, the ICPC and the EFCC even deployed to some polling units to check the issue of vote buying. So we also expect that as political parties begin their rallies and their campaigns, that since they already know the provisions of the law, that they will also monitor and check political campaigns and political rallies and insist that political parties and their candidates remain within the ambit and confines of the law in terms of what is provided both in the Constitution and the Electoral Act, especially in relation to not allowing their supporters to bear arms at political rallies, and also not allowing their supporters to intimidate individuals or groups that may likely disagree with them. And so we are going to continue to collaborate with them. I'm sure in the next few days, the chairman of the commission will also convene a consultative meeting with all the critical stakeholders for us to know where we are. Since we have reached the critical stage in the electoral process, we will continue to collaborate with them, and our collaboration with them has yielded positive results.
And talking about collaboration, what's the level of buy-in now with political parties? Of course, there is the Inter-Party Advisory Council that INEC works with during election periods as this. What's the level of buy-in now to this concern, this nationwide concern, which INEC is, of course, driving about the need to eliminate all forms of hate speech and other divisive content during campaigns?
Well, the political parties are already today they are going to roll out their campaigns for national elections. And I'm also aware the National Peace Committee is going to sign a peace accord with the political parties relating to and the candidates relating to the peaceful conduct of rallies and peaceful conduct of campaigns. And so, in terms of our collaboration with the various agencies and with the various departments in relation to this particular thing, that collaboration has been very, very good, and we'll continue to collaborate. We share information with them, and also share information with us. At the moment there's anything untowards in relation to some of these issues, we are going to definitely move against any political party that contravenes the provisions of the law. And the political parties know this. And we also hold a quarterly consultative meeting with the leadership of the 18 registered political parties. And IPAC also attends that meeting as an entity and as agency that embodies all the political parties. We're also going to hold meetings with civil society groups and organizations, and with the media, and then with the security agencies, so that all of us will be on the same page as we move towards the critical stage of the electoral process. And so we make information available, and we also collaborate with all these organs and all these agencies, so that they will nobody will say, "Oh, I have been taken by surprise." The law is the law, and any contravention of the law attracts sanctions, and ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But we'll keep on making the law available to people, and also urging them to take a critical look at the provisions of the law, so that they can comply with its intendment and also its provisions.
And the rider to that question would also be, what do you think about, an internal mechanism somewhat within each political party to trigger an alarm from within their ranks as to, okay, so you are going too far with, this narrative. You need to rein in on that before the authorities come down hard on all of us as members of the political party.
Well, the political party is supposed to be an amalgam of people who share some basic principles, who share some basic ideas, who share some basic ideological, who share the same ideological disposition, and is supposed to have organs of a political party that regulates the way things are done. The Independent National Electoral Commission will not micromanage any political party, because basically and fundamentally, political parties are supposed to be properly organized within the realm of the law and also within the realm of the Constitution. We are going to remain strictly within the confines of the Constitution and the law that gives us power to do certain things. Yes, we have the power to look at the way political parties are organized, but political parties have the bigger responsibility of making sure that they're organized. The political parties have a responsibility that no member of the party, no candidate of the party goes out of his way to go and do things and say things that will endanger the existence of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or that will lead to breakdown of law and order. So political parties have the first responsibility to make sure that all their candidates and all their supporters behave in a manner that is orderly, and also behave in a manner that does not trigger a violent reaction or endanger even the existence of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
As much as they have that responsibility, over the years, there are concerns where Nigerians feel that they haven't shown that responsibility, and that this time around it may not be any different.
Well, we expect things to be different this time around. And we also expect the political parties to show a lot of restraint and also be responsible in the way they conduct their rallies and also in the way they conduct their campaigns. We expect a high level of civility in terms of the way the things are done. Because ultimately, and at the end of the day, no matter how good your rally is, no matter how good your campaign is, ultimately, there must be voting and there must be election. So if you conduct violent campaign, you will conduct violent rallies, and there's breakdown of law and order in several states of the Federation. The implication is that elections may not hold in some of those states, and the political parties cannot reap any benefit from such a venture. So I think that since ultimately the political parties want to govern and govern states that are peaceful and also govern states where people have some level of electoral fulfillment, it is incumbent on them to make sure that they conduct their activities in a manner befitting of a political party that wants to aspire for power and also wants to govern. So I think that we will expect a high level of responsibility from them, but we will also perform our own duty in making sure that we monitor these political campaigns, monitor the rallies, collaborate with the various security agencies, and make sure that the security agencies arrest and investigate and arrest those who engage in electoral infraction. And then the commission will also prosecute them. And so we are not going to leave things to chance. We are going to also monitor them to make sure that they conform to the provisions of the Constitution and also the provisions of the law.
Now, still talking about conforming to the provisions of the law, we know that over the years, going to churches and mosques to, covertly campaign by our politicians was somewhat of a norm. This time around, it's not going to be possible according to the law. I wonder what picture you foresee with regards to this, how challenging it might be for some of these politicians who might, forget themselves, go to some of these worship centers and just begin to speak.
Well, the responsibility of making sure that things are done and that their platforms are not used for political rallies and political campaigns also resides with the religious leaders. Religious leaders ought to know about the provisions of the law. They ought to also make sure that they respect the provisions of the law. And so if a priest or an imam or a priest in a shrine makes available his or her worship center for purposes of political campaigns and political rallies, the individual should know that he or she is not immune from obedience to the provisions of the law and also not immune from sanctions. We also expect political parties and their candidates to realize that those who go to worship centers may belong to different political parties, may share different political tendencies, and also may not even be aligned to any political party. And the moment you begin to turn religious worship centers into the moment you begin to use them for political campaigns and political rallies, the implication is that you may be abusing some sensibilities and there may likely be breakdown of law and order, even in worship centers. And that is why the law says move away from places designated as for religious worship, move away from police stations, and also move away from public offices and go and do your rallies and do your campaigns elsewhere. If somebody who is religious wants to attend your rally or attend your campaign, the person must leave the church and go to the place designated for rallies and designated for campaigns. And so I think it's very important for people to know that you can commit an offense in a place of religious worship, and the person who has given you a platform to commit that particular offense is also liable on conviction. And so I think that it goes both ways, and the political parties and their candidates know this, and they must realize that this is not allowed by the law.
All right, we'll take this further, Mr. Okoye. We are nearing the top of the hour now, and it's time for another break. Please stay with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we've been speaking over the past 30 minutes or thereabout with the National Commissioner and the Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC, Mr. Festus Okoye. Thanks for hanging on with us. Now, talking about the provisions of the amended Electoral Act, there's also a stipulation of a ban on the use of masquerades during campaigns. And, I guess considering the fact that masquerades have normal cultural undertones, tell us the the concern here for INEC and what it is trying to curb?
Well, in certain jurisdictions and in certain places, masquerades have cultural and traditional significance. And in some places, masquerades also bear arms and also engage in physical and other violence. And that is why the law makes it clear that masquerades shall not be employed or used by any political party, aspirant or candidate during political campaigns or rallies or for any other political purpose. And so the law is very, very clear on some of these issues. And those who designed the law, those who made the law, understand some of these issues. And as you know, the last amendment or the making of the new Electoral Act was done by politicians who engage in political rallies and engage in political campaigns and understand the dynamics of some of these issues. And that is why they made the law and they imputed some of their own experiences in the law to guide political rallies and also to guide political campaigns.
Right. Now, there's also the aspect of political parties complaining of denial of access to public facilities for meetings, rallies, and also the aspect of exorbitant charges for signages and billboards. I'm wondering, with regards to the aspect of signages and billboard, if there is a particular price pegged to it by perhaps the commission, if it worked in collaboration with those in charge to address that matter, and how we also intend to check this aspect of denial of access to public facilities for meetings and rallies.
Well, we expect, for instance, public-owned media organizations to give equal access to all political parties for the purposes of their slogans, their campaigns, and so on. Even private media organizations are also expected to give equal access, subject to payment of the necessary fees. Now, we have received complaints relating to the issue of denial of public facilities for purposes of rallies and campaigns, and also exorbitant charges. There's a possibility that when we meet with the political parties, these issues will be raised. When we also meet with the security agencies, there's a possibility that these issues will be put on the table. And if there is the need to talk to some of the agencies that have control over some of these issues, the commission will definitely do that. But no decision has been taken in relation to that. But we expect public authorities to exercise a lot of restraint and also to hold some level of balance between all the contending political parties, because every political party has the same incident of registration, and every political party has chances of assuming power, and no political party should be discriminated against on the basis of the fact that it is not in power now. And so I think that the various state governments and the federal government should take into consideration the fact that political parties should have equal access to some of these public facilities, because these are public facilities and the agencies are public agencies that are financed and kept with taxpayers' money.
And another way of looking at it is even for broadcast stations and other media or traditional media outlets. So the law also expects that media practitioners should give equal opportunities to all the participating political parties, about 18 of them, of course. But then when you look at it, that not all these parties have the means, not all the parties have as large structures as, some others. So in your engagement before now, it's expected that you would have, gotten a level of buy-in from media executives on this this benchmark that, even journalists will also be graded upon. So what are your thoughts in this regard?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission is not aware that there is any political party that is small or that there is any political party that is big. We are not aware whether some political parties have more money than others. As far as the commission is concerned, all the registered political parties have equal constitutional and legal existence, and all of them bear the same incidence of existence. The way we treat one political party is the way we treat the other political party, because all of them are equal before the law. So what we are saying is that if you want to campaign, public media should be made available to you for your campaign. If you also want to engage the private media, you'll be in a position to pay the necessary fees imposed by the private media organizations. And then if you want to do your rally, what if for instance, you want to use the national stadium and then they say fees are paid. If you charge APC 500,000 for the use of the facility, you cannot charge the Action Alliance more than that when it comes for that particular facility. And so there should be equal opportunity for all the political parties, and what is good for one political party should also be good for another political party. But as far as the commission is concerned, all political parties are equal, and we don't know whether there's a small party or a big party, and we don't know whether a political party has more money than the other one. No, we don't go that direction.
Interesting. Talking about more money or spending now, the campaign spending now, there are those who are concerned with regards to INEC's tracking of the candidates' spending and political parties' spending with regards to this time, especially thoroughly tracking the spending of political parties. I'd like for you to speak to that effect.
Well, we have a department in charge, a department of election and party monitoring. And we have tracking devices, and we have a template with which we track the expenditures of political parties and the expenditures of candidates. As you are aware, a presidential candidate's expenditure in relation to political campaigns has been pegged at 5 billion, while that of governors has been pegged at 1 billion. That of candidates for senatorial election has been pegged at 100 million. That of members of the House of Reps has been pegged at 70 million, and that for state assemblies has been pegged at 30 million. Now, all these candidates are also expected to make available to the Independent National Electoral Commission their expenses immediately after election. Political parties are also supposed to keep proper books of accounts in relation to who has donated any monies to them and who has not donated any monies to them. Political parties are not expected to collect any funds that they cannot identify the source. In other words, they cannot collect funds from anonymous sources. And then if they collect or people remit funds to them from outside the country, they have a constitutional responsibility to turn in those funds to the Independent National Electoral Commission within 21 days of receipt. The commission will continue to monitor political parties. The commission will continue to edit the accounts of political parties. And it is also a serious offense for any auditor to aid and abet the falsification of the books or accounts of any political party. And so we have a tracking device. We have a template for monitoring some of these expenditures. But as you know, sometimes it's in a cash economy, sometimes it's very difficult to monitor some of these expenditures. But we have a tracking device, and we have mechanisms for monitoring some of these things. But ultimately, it is the political parties that have the constitutional and legal obligation to keep proper books of accounts and make those books of accounts open to the Independent National Electoral Commission for purposes of auditing those accounts.
You mentioned the challenges in tracking some of these monies because of the kind of economy we're on, the cash economy. Could you quickly talk to us about those challenges, what they were?
Well, I'm talking about challenges. For instance, if you come to my house and I give you a 50,000 naira without accounting for it, without the money going through the bank, it is difficult. If you don't disclose it, it is difficult for the Independent National Electoral Commission to know that you have collected such funds. And that's the type of thing I'm talking about. If somebody has donated a car to you and you don't disclose that particular situation, that a car has been donated to you, it may be difficult for the Independent National Electoral Commission to track some of these donations and some of these gifts that you have received. But we have our own tracking mechanism. We know the way we look at B-boss and how much people engage in B-boss, who put up B-boss, charge for B-boss. And also we have other tracking devices, and we collaborate with the various security agencies, the ICPC, the EFCC, and other security agencies in tracking the way funds flow into political parties and to the candidates. But sometimes it's slightly difficult to track some of these funds that do not pass through the normal channels.
But are we not paying, too much emphasis on this issue of financing election campaigns. First, your INEC has admitted the challenges in monitoring this, despite the tracking devices that you mentioned, but of course noting the obvious concerns and the fact that INEC hasn't really, come out in the past to come down hard, basically, on airing political parties. So are we not, kind of overhyping the issue of, fundings of funds? What impact has it even proven to have on polls if parties overspend? Of course, that is also a relative term.
Well, you see, we do not want dirty money in our campaigns. We also do not want forces that do not mean well for the people of this country to fund political parties. It will be dangerous for political parties to be allowed to collect funds from forces and from individuals and from institutions that do not mean well for the people of this country. Will be dangerous for allow a political party to receive money or to receive funds from terrorist organizations or from organizations that fund terrorist activities in order to have a foothold in Nigeria. And so the purpose is to make sure that, one, dirty money does not flow into the coffers of any of the political parties or candidates, and also to make sure that public resources meant for the development of this country are not used for political campaigns. Campaigns are supposed to be funded by individuals and by groups and organizations that believe in the ideologies and programs and principles of a particular political party. Not that a political party, just because it's in power, we go and use government facilities, use government funding to fund a political party, or to go and receive funds from forces outside the country that do not mean well for the people of this country. And so it's not issue of hyping it. It is issue of political parties and candidates also realizing that in whatever they do, they must abide by the provisions of the Constitution and also abide by the provisions of the law. Because if, as a political party, they breach the provisions of the Constitution and the provisions of the law, the implication is that when they get to power, there's a tendency and there's a possibility that they may not be in a position to command that moral authority and moral responsibility that will get people to also obey the law, since people know that even before they got to power, they had no regard for the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So it's not issue of hyping. I think it's issue of political and constitutional and legal responsibility.
All right. Right. We need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation with you, Mr. Okoye. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were speaking with the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC, Mr. Festus Okoye, and he was talking to us about how the Commission does not want dirty money in the campaigns going on and over the years. And quickly, Mr. Okoye, if that is what it is, perhaps the Commission would have sought to put in place measures to address some of the challenges it has faced with those who are not going through the proper channels to get funding for their campaigns over the years. That's on the one hand. And then there is the meeting in Port Harcourt with stakeholders. We also want you to give us an insight in what that meeting is about.
Which meeting?
There is set to be a meeting. INEC is the Commission is going to have a meeting with stakeholders in Port Harcourt. I'm wondering if that is going to happen today or sometime, and what the meeting is about. And then also the aspect of not wanting dirty monies in our campaigns. How we already know the challenges and what INEC ought to have done or should have been doing to addressing that aspect.
Well, I think that political parties must realize that it's no longer business as usual, and that the Commission will make sure that every institution, every political party, and every candidate conforms to the provisions of the Constitution and also conforms to the provisions of the law. Our election and party monitoring department is up and doing and has honed its a template for purposes of monitoring the activities of political parties in relation to the organization, in relation to the campaigns, and also in relation to rallies. And we are going to continue to collaborate and cooperate and partner with the various security agencies to make sure that those who do not obey the law and those who engage in electoral infraction are proceeded against. And so it's not going to be business as usual. Presently, some of the national commissioners have been holding a meeting with those we call the INEC press corps. And these are a group of journalists that cover the activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission. We've brought together almost all the directors in the commission, heading various departments, and so that the media will understand the functions of the commission, the remit of the commission, the mandate of each department of the commission. We'll understand our election processes and election procedures, and also what happens on election day, how votes are cast, how declarations are made, and how returns are made. And it's been very impactful and it's been wonderful in terms of the type of reactions we have gotten. Now, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission has also been meeting with the different stakeholders. And in the next few days, I'm not really too sure, the National Peace Committee will sign a peace accord with the registered political parties and the candidates relating to the peaceful conduct of political campaigns and political rallies. And so the commission is engaging all the stakeholders to make sure that all of us are on the same page as we move towards the critical stages of the electioneering process and the elections itself. And so we are talking to almost all the critical stakeholders, and we keep on talking to them to make sure that things go smoothly with the elections.
All right. It will indeed be all about everyone. INEC would also be expected to give a good showing as we continue to inch closer and closer to the 2023 general election. We're wishing you well, and we'll continue to reach out to your agency for more insights. INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Festus Okoye, we thank you very much.
I wish you well. Thank you so much.